Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, we talk about some film news, and we recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over movies since we were in high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation with relevant cinema. I'm Derek Deal. Today, I'm here with Nick Moffat.
Hey yo,
How you doing?
good. I'm excited to talk about Black Widow. Bunch of
Yeah,
spiders. Spiders are crawling up my walls, and the MCU is back in theaters. So
yeah.
excited about all this.
It's been a long time. It kind of feels like they're like the harbinger of like box office. Like they're like after like with Black Widows like made decent, pretty good money. And it's like if when once they roll into town, it's like floodgates are open, I feel like now for movies to really hopefully be
Right, like,
back at the box office.
do we need to keep talking about whether or not movies are back? You
No.
know, it's
No.
it's yeah. Well,
No, but it just feels like
I didn't mean to like cut you off with that topic. I meant like you're right. Like it's like is now that Marvel's back and they did well, is it just like okay, movies are back, everyone knows it. You know what I mean? I feel like 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago when we did Quiet Place, I
mm,
was talking about how I got my hair cut and the woman that cut my hair didn't know that movie theaters were back open. And
right.
now that Fast and Furious did really well and then Marvel did really well and everyone knows that Marvel's back,
Yeah.
then you know everyone knows the movie theaters are back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the bigger question at this point is like, are people going to go see movies that aren't billion-dollar movies or movies that should, quote unquote, make $1 billion?
Yeah.
Um,
For
are
sure.
people going to go and see the smaller movies at this point? But
Man, I hope so. Like, it's such a
yeah,
good opportunity to showcase some of those movies.
yeah, absolutely. And I was just talking to a friend of the show, Cal, about this, about how who knows? That's like the big, who knows if
Mm-hmm.
that'll happen. But like either way, one thing I love about movies is just the history that's behind movies.
Yeah.
Right now where we're at, there's like a big question mark about mid-range budget movies. Like the movies that are coming out in theaters are either huge blockbusters or the small indies that are getting propped up,
Mm.
and the mid-range ones are gone. But that doesn't mean they won't come back someday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
film has such a ingrained history into our culture that like there's been ebbs and flows for as long as there's been film history for 150 years.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's just cool. I'm really excited about I don't know, seeing where film goes.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're kind of lucky that, I mean, lucky, I don't know, but it'll be nice. Like, there's so many movies coming out the rest of these next 6 months, uh, lots of opportunities. So,
Holy crap, that is so true. It just yeah.
um, yeah, so with Black Widow, that's the beginning. Well, it's the first, it's the return to theaters for Marvel, and it's the first film in their Phase 4 slate of movies that were supposed to be coming out these last 2 years, and they're all going to kind of flood out here. I think we get three more before December. So,
Yeah, how
um,
weird is that? So we had Endgame and then Spider-Man in 2019 and
yeah,
then no new Marvel movies. And Phase 4 started with the TV shows.
yeah, which have been
So
like really, I think, kind of tying people over. At least I know me and you have been eating them up, and WandaVision was so exciting and refreshing, and just like having that kind of this kind of story told on this different medium, and being able to tell it like slower, have more time to sit in it, like I think is really really benefiting them. Same with Falcon Winter Soldier and now Loki. Like these are all part of their Phase 4 story that they're building, and I don't know, like so far, hanging out with Loki for 5 episodes in like this weird like sci-fi like dimensional story, it's been like a blast for me. It's just like there's no way they could have done these kind of stories in a film, at least not like they couldn't spend 45 minutes like just on Loki's like backstory, or building out the TVA and all these different characters. They'd all have to be kind of chopped up and you know.
Totally, totally. It's unbelievable, and honestly, this whole rollout of season 4 has just deepened my respect for the MCU. And I know the MCU is not for everybody. They're doing broad filmmaking, which some people just easily dismiss. But I feel like you have to respect their strategy that they've created here. I was skeptical of season of Phase 4.
Oh yeah,
I
me
was,
too.
what are they gonna do after Endgame? Like what? How are they gonna go? How are they gonna keep people interested? And the pivot to TV has been so smart. The how they embraced the TV format with WandaVision, totally like parodying sitcoms, but then
Yeah,
using it to tell like a story about grief. So smart. Like that was one of my favorite MCU things. And it's like I just want more of that.
yeah,
I had qualms with Falcon Winter Soldier, but
yeah,
there was like one episode in there, like I think it was the second to last episode, like that episode alone, what they did with the character building and like the themes and the issues that the characters are dealing with, like that made the show totally worth it for me, like 100%.
yeah,
Like this, it's just they've done such a great job at like really making these phase 4 at least character driven. I'm at this point I'm
yeah,
just,
for
just
sure.
kind of like the action, whatever. I don't really care too much about the action these days with Marvel, but they're doing such a great job at really embracing the characters and driving them forward.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like the reins are kind of let off a little bit with these two. Like that, maybe it's just not having to worry about the box office and like trying to please like Chinese audience and American audiences and like finding this weird middle ground. They're more just like, what would these characters do? Like, how can we make this like work and make these characters feel authentic and not like they're toys that they're trying to sell us or anything like that. And
Totally, totally.
yeah, I think it's paying off
Uh,
really well. I kind of feel it in we'll get more into Black Widow, but I kind of feel like Black Widow might be kind of the a sign that they're kind of moving in that same direction with the movies as well, which I'm hoping, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious about the next few movies. Of course, the directors are really interesting. It's crazy that Chloe Zhao is doing a Marvel movie, so
yeah,
going from No Man's Land to a Marvel movie. So, I mean,
hmm,
yeah, it's very possible that Phase Four's movies are going to be just as interesting.
yeah,
Um, I think one interesting thing that Marvel's doing right now, I can't remember if we've talked about it on podcast or not, but I keep beating this drum that Marvel is currently going back and fixing their problems. They're like retrofitting their failures.
yeah,
WandaVision was like a rewrite to make Age of Ultron more important. Um, Falcon Winter Soldier certainly makes like some of the stuff that happens with Falcon more relevant.
right,
But I think Black Widow kind of does the same thing.
hmm,
Not completely, but I think one of the criticisms of Black Widow, maybe not as a movie, but like as whatever what it is the time that it came out. Like this movie should have came out years ago.
hmm,
I don't know if it's a spoiler to say that Black Widow takes place after Civil War, but Civil War as a movie, Civil War the movie came out in 2016, and so it's like we're dealing with this character story that you know is already like 5 years ago,
yeah,
and then we all know what happens to Scarlet, or I'm sorry, Black Widow at the end of
Endgame,
Endgame,
yeah,
not the end of Endgame, in the middle of
yeah,
Endgame, but it's like I just think it's interesting that they didn't like. I feel like all of us are thinking Black Widow deserved a solo movie like years ago.
yeah,
Around the same time Wonder Woman came out. Like
hmm,
Black Widow should have had like a solo hero movie around the same time as the first Wonder Woman. How come there's two Wonder Woman movies before Black Widow even gets her first movie?
hmm,
And I think that Marvel, they're kind of cautious about it. I don't know. I think objectively, Wonder Woman is a bigger character than Black Widow, but I think that now that the movie came out, it's like yeah, we might be talking about it now that like right in this moment that it's like weird that this movie exists right now, but like in 5 years, on Disney Plus, they're going to have this movie slated in the MCU chronological order, and
Right.
our kids are going to watch Marvel starting with Iron Man and watch Black Widow right after Civil War,
Yeah, they're never gonna
and it's
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna be like slotted where it's supposed to be slotted. So like again, I feel like this is them like, kind of just fixing the past a little bit. They're like
Yeah.
filling in the gaps,
Yeah, no, I
which makes it
totally agree.
awkward in this moment, but in the future I would argue it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely like tucks nicely in between those films. From beginning to end on this movie, I feel like they made it pretty clear like where we are at the beginning of this movie and where we are at the end of this movie. Like, yeah, it was probably for that reason. They kind of maybe even overstate it in the movie so that we understand like this is back then. So when you watch it again, and yeah, in a couple of years, when you do your MCU watch through, you'll understand where to put it and where to watch it.
Totally. Totally. I mean, yeah, that whole part was pretty funny because, like, pretty early on in the movie, she picks up some hair dye and she, like, looks
Yeah.
at it, starts opening the box, and then she, like, gets a phone call or something. And she's like, oh, actually, I'll put the hair dye down. And then at the end of the movie, she's blonde. She
Yeah.
used the hair dye.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I didn't even get that at the beginning. I didn't get it until the end. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
She had a different look in Infinity War.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
So,
Well, let's jump into the movie itself. Um,
cool.
so the film's Black Widow. It was directed by Kate Shortland, who also directed a movie we've reviewed on this podcast. I think you reviewed it. It was Berlin Syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we talked about that a few years back for Horror Movie Month.
yeah,
It was pretty twisted.
yeah,
Like
that's
it
right.
was a pretty deep psychological horror, and like it's interesting that she went from that to this. And I would actually say that there are some themes that cross pollinate.
Yeah, yeah. Um, from what I understand of that movie, I can totally see like links.
Well, it's a movie about like psychological abuse and like manipulation and like deep rooted like you know um, just like how being psychologically tormented can totally change who you are. And
Mm.
yeah, there's
That's what
also
this movie's
kidnapping.
about too. That's like
Yeah, totally.
um,
Exactly.
one of the primary themes. So it stars Scarlett Johansson, also Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, and David Harbour. The plot description is after the events of Civil War, Natasha Romanoff decides to take a break and disappear for a while, only to get pulled back into the world of the Red Room from which she was raised. She teams up with her lost sister, Yelena Belova, to bring the tyrannical organization down.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So, yeah. I overall I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was like it was kind of what I was hoping it would be, which is kind of like a James Bondy, like Jason Bourne kind of action movie. We know she's a spy, and we've that's always kind of been the story and lore around Black Widows that she's just the super spy. Um, and so it definitely follows like kind of the tropey beats of one of those films. Um, but I think it worked really well, and I think the action was really fun and well choreographed. The stuff I really really liked about the movie, honestly though, was a lot of just like the when the characters got to kind of sit down and just talk. There's a lot going on, and a lot of complicated like relationships between this family of sorts, and
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, Derek. I just wanted to yeah. I thought this movie was like surprising in a lot of ways.
yeah.
There was first of all, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a
Same.
big Marvel guy. I just didn't, I've been skeptical about how much I would actually enjoy a Black Widow movie this entire time, and
Yeah.
it turned out I liked it way more than I thought. But a big part of that is what you're saying is the scenes where they're just hanging out and they're kind of sorting through family issues, and they're sitting around tables, and they're sitting on airplanes, and they're just like sitting in living rooms and
Hmm.
just talking and dealing with stuff. And it's fascinating. It's hilarious. A lot of people are comparing it to like a sitcom, which I don't know if it's really like a sitcom,
Hmm.
especially in the same way that WandaVision is, but
Right.
it certainly was funny.
I've seen a lot of comparisons to the Americans TV show, um, which I haven't seen. It's like really, really highly praised, but apparently it's a similar kind of plot, like dynamic between characters, like like a Russian-built uh, infiltration plan thing. Yeah.
Totally.
I want to say too, like after not seeing a Marvel movie in theaters for a long time, the opening like 15 minutes of this movie like sold me so hard on it. Like I was so into the opening like 15 minutes all the way through the credits. I was like almost in tears at like how excited I was getting for the movie to like
Eric,
really start.
I agree completely 100%. Especially I know we both saw the Dolby screen, so
Yeah.
the Dolby screen definitely enhances it, but
Yeah.
dude, I was flipping the F out in the opening scene.
Yeah.
We just like talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
Like gosh, is it spoilery to talk about it? It's
Uh,
just so shocking in my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Um
It's
yeah,
very light spoilers. It's the
okay,
beginning of the
so
movie, so
we'll talk
like
about it. It's the
yeah.
first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So like yeah, dude, like, so the movie, it starts and they're in Ohio, and it's like, okay, that's probably Scarlett Johansson as a kid. Okay, Rachel Weisz is her dad. I'm sorry, Rachel Weisz is her mom. David Harbour's her dad. She
Yeah.
kind of has this like edge to her, and she's got this little sister who's like really little, like
Yeah.
4 years old or 5 years old, right? Like real little. And it's like, they're all just like living their suburban life. David Harbour comes home, and he's got this face of like, all right, shit's going down. He like tells his wife like we gotta go, and they go, and how movies are, you're like totally
You're like,
like
oh shit.
on his side,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like yeah, you gotta go, and then they're like there's this like really beautiful moment where they turn on American Pie, the song, and they're like listening to it, and they're seeing like scenes of America pass them by, and you just know that they're never gonna see it again. And it's fine, it's cheesy, but it's like it's like what makes it good,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you have to put that in there. And then they have this like again they're in an airplane, and then the cops roll up, and David Harbour gets out, and he like flips over a car, and you're
He's
like,
like,
okay,
whoa. Yeah.
okay, he's a superhero or something.
Yeah.
But superhuman or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they get away, and it's super intense. Like like Rachel Weisz gets shot. Like Scarlett
It's really
Johansson as a kid
harrowing
ends up
escape.
flying the plane. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a harrowing escape. But then they end up going to Cuba, and like everything flips. This was like so jarring to me and incredibly upsetting in the theater.
Yeah.
Like I was pretty shaken by it. Like
Yeah.
David Harbour immediately is like, I'm not their dad. I'm an asshole. Like I'm just like a fucking dude who's a spy, and that whole time being in Ohio, that sucked. And like Rachel Weisz is like bleeding out. They like put her into a train and take her away, and it's just like just the walls are crumbling on these kids' lives. And
Yeah.
the 5-year-old, she has no idea what's going on. And Scarlett Johansson, you can tell, or Black Widow, you can tell that she's like trying to protect her sister, and she's like,
Like she knew this
because
was coming eventually, kind of
yeah,
thing.
she knew it was happening, and her sister had no idea, and it's just like it's like you were rooting for them to get out, and
Yeah.
then they get to their location, and it's like, oh, they had been spies the whole time, and oh, they're actually gonna like get knocked out with a shot in their neck, and then be taken away as like slaves or
Yeah.
whatever. And it just like the mood flipped so quick.
Yeah.
It was so horrifying and like super jarring, but like it worked like in a good way. It
Yeah.
was like they pull you in, and then they shatter it.
Yeah.
It was
It's just
ah.
really, really solid like filmmaking. And to really like start the movie off that way, it was just like what a way to prime the audience for like what we're doing, That
And
was
then the
awesome.
opening credit sequence with that slowed down version of "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of overplayed to do pop songs slow, but It worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't bother me at all. Honestly, I thought it felt the mood. It fit the mood really well,
Yeah.
and it was fun. So, but yeah. So from there, I was just really sold on it. I was just like even now, just like going over it again, it's just like, man, what an opening.
What a
But
ballsy opening,
yeah,
just
and it's kind of out of just most Marvel movies just don't take a risk like that, especially in the opening. A lot of them, they're known for being kind of middle ground movies that try to, they like to play it safe when they have to, and it was cool to see them like just be fine with like let's try to just like really get some cool storytelling that in ways we haven't done before, and yeah, so that worked for me. Taskmaster was a kind of the big villain that was sold for this movie, and I know he's a big fan favorite from the comics. So that was really exciting seeing him in here and seeing what they decided to do with the character, which we can get into later in spoilers. But yeah, they looked really awesome, and that was really fun. Um,
yeah, that was a good bad guy. I mean, like
yeah,
faceless for most of it,
yeah,
but just like unstoppable in a interesting way. Like they
mm,
just Taskmaster just basically moved in the exact same way that all the Avengers did.
yeah.
Like all of them, like through the shield, like Captain America, and shot arrows like Hawkeye. It was just, but
It
like
was
exact movements,
yeah.
and
I was trying to explain him to my friend that I saw the movie with before the movie started. I was like, he's in hand to hand combat. He's basically unbeatable. There's nobody that he can't match their movements and everything. So it's like until you get into the superpowered superheroes, he's pretty much impossible to kill unless you have like some master plan set up. And so that's kind of why he's a fan favorite because he's just like he's so cool. He can just like beat everybody, and but he doesn't really have any real like powers. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, and the all the fight scenes with them was really cool, and Florence Pugh was really really great in it. She's always great and everything, but it's cool to see her in like an action role. I haven't seen her do action before, and we've at this point Scarlett Johansson's kind of an action hero. I feel like she's done a lot of solo action movies herself and everything, and Florence Pugh is totally like right there with her, keeping up with all the cool fight scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah, Florence Pugh's great. She's like quickly becoming one of my favorite actresses,
Yeah,
like to the point where like I want to see everything that she's in.
yeah.
I mean, I was pretty much sold like 3 years ago when she was in Fighting with My Family and Midsummer in the same
Oh
year,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, that's the same person. What?
All
But
right,
then it's not just those two movies. Like every movie, then she was in Little Women, and she was unrecognizable in that movie
all
too.
right.
And it's like every one of her performances has been dramatically different.
Yeah, but equally like impressive, and
Yeah.
she's just so charismatic, just like constantly every time she
Yeah.
talks.
She's in
Um,
a smaller movie. The first thing I saw her in was a smaller movie called Lady Macbeth, and it
mm-hmm.
was really dark. It was like a small indie, and she was really good in that too. And then it was like years later where I was like, "What? Midsummer, Fighting with My Family, and Lady Macbeth? Like this actress,
Yeah,
she just has it."
yeah, and everyone else is really great in it too. David Harbour, it's cool to see him, and he's just been like a guy that's been in movies for a long time. But it's cool to see him like getting these bigger roles because he's also just really great. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like his career kind of took off a little bit more after Stranger
Stranger
Things,
Things for
right?
sure. Yeah,
And then we saw him in something
he's
recently.
gotten some more starring roles. He was in like Hellboy and
Right.
I don't know some other things. Oh, he was just in that new Steven Soderbergh movie that just
Right,
came
he
out.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, and he was good in that. But yeah, this movie was like the best I had ever seen him. Like I was thoroughly impressed with his performance in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, he like became a dick like immediately, like
Mm-hmm.
a different person. Like
Like
obviously
a
he was like,
switch. Like he's literally talking to them like they're his kids and stuff, and he stands up and he's not their father anymore. Like he's
yeah,
just
he's
some
talking with
guy.
this thick Russian accent. And he's
Yeah.
just like a total douchebag,
Mm-hmm.
and you hate him.
Yeah.
You hate him, and then like like, and I don't know if we should talk about this in sport. You know, they end up reuniting with him, and he is like so charismatic, and you know they 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 get him. They like break him out of this prison because they want to use him to find the bigger bad guy, and supposedly this is the first time, you know, it's Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson. It's like, you know, they're sisters, or you know, from that family, and they're breaking him out. This is supposedly the first time seeing him since he like betrayed them. I'm assuming, and he's immediately just like so happy to see them. He's like, my family's back, and they're like, you were not our family, you
Yeah.
like totally betrayed us. And he just the whole time is like, nah, I love you guys, like I've always loved you, that love was real. I just also I loved Russia. But
Yeah.
you know, then he starts going on about how like that guy, the big boss, betrayed him. And you're
Mm.
like, I don't know if I believe you, because you totally dick these guys over, but
Yeah.
also you're like weirdly charismatic, and I want to believe you, and you're hilarious.
Yeah.
And like, he was apparently a superhero back in like the 80s, right?
Yeah, he was
Like
like
a Russian
Russia's
superhero.
answer to Captain America, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
he was the Red Menace or something, like the Red
Shoot.
he had a name, the Red something, but at some point he puts on his old costume. He like squeezes into it. He's clearly like much heavier, and he like zips it up all the way.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, check it out!" Then he's just sitting at the dinner table, like in this ridiculous costume,
Yeah.
and he keeps telling stories about how he fought Captain America back in the '80s, which he should have been frozen then,
Right.
but you know, you can't help but wonder, like, is he just like full of shit, or is it that like maybe Captain America was around, because like we know in Endgame he like, you know, had to return
The Red Guardian.
the
That's his name.
Red Guardian. That's it, Red Guardian. So he had to return all the stuff,
Right.
and the Infinity Stones.
Like, did he
So
run into him or
maybe
something?
they did actually like fight or something, but you know,
But he's
it's just
kind
I
of
don't know.
like he kind of takes on the persona of like an out of touch celebrity kind of thing. Is the way I kind of view that character, at least immediately, because like, you know, he's in jail and like everyone's like the Red Guardian, you know, and they're all like arm wrestling and stuff. And I think he just like he like has that ego
Yeah.
of like these, you know, like a, you know, super famous person that doesn't really care about how he affects other people and stuff. And
Yeah.
they did a good job at like actually, you know, pulling an arc out of that though too. Like by the end of the movie,
Yeah,
and it was
for sure.
really well done.
I mean, I was laughing so hard, Derek, when like, you know, they broke him out, and he's such a dick, and they're so mad at him, and they like, you know, they're trying to find Rachel Weisz, they're trying to find the mom character, and they like, you know, they're like looking for her, they're on their feet now, and he's like, hey, Black Widow, let me talk to you for a sec, Natasha, and he like pulls her aside, and he's like, so did Captain America ever talk about me? And she's like, what are you talking about? We all know you're full of crap. He's like, no, I fought Captain America. Did he ever bring me up? Because
Yeah.
I want to know. And they're like, just stop talking. And
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I couldn't get over it. But
No,
you know,
he was really funny.
I also, you know, I wanted to bring up too how like this whole family dynamic was like so interesting, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, because
Mm.
you know, they were like a fake family, and like technically in the movie they were only a family for 3 years, but like they play their parts so well that they believed it, they lived it, and even though the betrayal happened, like all of them like felt it. Like all of them felt the family, and then when they all got back together, the dynamics all came back just like how families do. Like every
Mm-hmm.
family has those dynamics that like zing zang across the table. And
Yeah.
um, one touch that I just wanted to bring up was how Rachel Weisz, when they first bumped into her, there was like sexual tension between her and David Harbour, like
Yeah.
immediately. And like again, like they weren't a real married couple. Like they didn't really love each other, but both of them were like, "Oh yeah, look at you," and it was
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, like this is kind of hot." Like these two
Yeah.
are like they're feeling it, you know. It was just very fun in that way.
Well, and it was like he's like this schlubby, like, you know,
Oh my
big
god.
beard, like kind of big belly and everything at this point. But like they kind of like, yeah, those performances really sold like a love for each other immediately. Like just by him walking in and that like presentation of himself is like not attractive at all. But she like could not help but like
Yeah. Like
be
there's
pulled
something
in.
there between them, even though
Yeah,
there wasn't really anything
yeah,
there. It just
which is kind of
and
sweet, you know. It kind of like feels
yeah,
good to
so
see that.
sweet.
And then
um,
they kind of like bring that dynamic back. Like they don't gloss over it though either, because they kind of bring it back to reality when Florence Pugh was like, "That was like real for me. Like you were my dad, you were my mom.
right. Right,
Like
like Scarlett
that was
Johansson's
it."
character, Black Widow, had like buried all of that like so far, and she was like,
Yeah,
that family was not real. Even though like we know that she's kind of BSing because we saw like the flashback early on, and we
yeah,
saw like her like take the little pictures. Like we know that she like cared about her sister, even though
mm-hmm.
she was going, I didn't care about any of you.
Yeah,
Like then there's all this like back and forth, and goes to Florence Pugh, who's like, that was real for me. That was really messed up. I didn't know. And she just like lays it all out there. She
yeah,
was like, they took me away. They brainwashed me. I had to kill people. Like I didn't know who I was. Like I suffered abuse. Like, and it just like got quiet. And it was like, wow, the abuse was real,
yeah,
And that was another thing I really respected about this movie was that they didn't shy away from going into like the details and the brutality of the abuse that these spies had to go through.
right. But
They
but like in
I'm
a
sorry.
way that they were able to like deal with it too, not just in a gratuitous like, look how crazy this was. It was like, yeah,
Right. There's
they actually worked through it, or at least
yeah.
began to.
Well, and there's like this thing that like firefighters do, where people who are in emergency type situations, they often joke about the disgusting,
Mm,
horrible, tragic things that they see just because they need to cope with it.
right,
So
gallows
they like,
humor.
yeah, it's like a lot of firefighters have extremely dark sense of humor just because of having to figure out some way to cope with it. And I think the movie kind of did that in a way.
Mm-hmm.
There's another scene after they save David Harbour's character where um, they're flying away and there are Florence Pugh's character like
Mm.
snaps at him and he's like, "What, is this your time of the month?" And she's like, "Actually, I don't have a time of the month because they took out my ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
They went inside and they cut out all of the things that." And she goes into detail on it. Like she doesn't shy away from going into detail on like what that looks and sounds like. He kind of freaks out for a second, and it's kind of a funny like scene though because she's not playing it like woe is me. She's just like matter of fact, and also I'm saying this to fuck with you,
Right.
and um it's like a really interesting character moment, and
Yeah.
also like this they again like they didn't shy away from talking about like the real shit that um they're dealing with.
Yeah. For sure. Um, yeah, and like that dynamic, I think, of all those characters was like, that was like the bulk of, I think, the enjoy. I mean, I liked the whole movie, but like that stuff was really really important to me. Like, and it really like it worked so well. Like I could have watched their family like be a family for a while. Like if they had their own show even or something. But yeah, that was like the really big heart of the movie, and I think that whole dynamic is what really really held the whole movie together. Um, and it was really impressively done. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we get into like some more spoilery stuff? Talk about maybe
Well,
the
that's very good. We can probably jump right into spoilers at this point. Not right into. We've been talking for a while,
yeah.
but yeah, we can go into spoilers.
Okay, so from this point on, there's gonna be spoilers. So if you have not seen Black Widow, go rent it on Disney Plus or go to your theater and check it out. Um, it's definitely worth the cost. So I guess the first spoilery thing I'd like to get into is Taskmaster. Talk a little about what they decided to do with that character. There, I guess I I kind of just totally forgot about. There's like a, what's the city that they went and visited? Where she runs into Florence Pugh. Belarus.
Yes.
Apparently, that's like an incident that's been talked about in the MCU since like the first Avengers or something. Um, and it's been about it's like what happened in Belarus with Hawkeye and Black Widow, and I guess this movie paid that off. I didn't know. I didn't. I guess I just forgot. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. Um, but like the incident was that Black Widow, who she was trying to bring down the guy that runs the Red Room, which they introduced in Age of Ultron as her backstory. It's kind of like where she was brainwashed and trained and all that stuff, and why she is the way she is. She tried to bring him down, and she had ended up sacrificing his daughter in order to ensure that he'd be at that location, and she like blew him up or whatever. Uh, Turns
Yeah,
out she
she was
didn't do
pretty.
that. But
Yeah, she was pretty shaken up about it. You know,
yeah,
when Florence Pugh was like, "That guy's still alive," she was like, "No, that's impossible. I
yeah,
killed him, and I killed his daughter. That's
yeah,
how I know."
yeah. And that's like kind of the weight she carries through this movie. And personally, I think it paid off really well at towards like in the kind of I guess the climactic fight scene. They have like this dramatic moment where it's her confronting that guy that runs the Red Room, and he reveals that his daughter lived, but she was so like badly injured they had to like cybernetically, fuse her brain to her spine and all that stuff, and injected a chip um, to which he can kind of control, which he has like implanted in everyone, or it's like some serum or something that's in all the Black Widows. That part was kind of vague to me. I didn't fully understand what was inside them, or if it was just like a brain thing. But he has a way of controlling them. Um, the reveal is that Taskmaster is his daughter, and
Yes.
he's been like building her to be this like ultimate killing machine thing that can fight anyone.
Yeah.
She's kind of like his bodyguard. He sends out on super important missions and stuff like that. Um, but that worked for me. I thought that payoff was actually it was a cool twist. It was like it definitely didn't see it coming. And it was one of those things. It was like, how are they gonna explain Taskmaster? Because he's like borderline supernatural in the comics. He's like this monstrous person. Um, and to find a in canon way that like doesn't break the universe was, I thought that was a cool way, and it paid off her story. She came face to face with like the demons that's been really haunting her throughout the film, and yeah, I
Yeah.
liked that payoff. I thought that
I
worked.
agree. I liked it a lot too, and I guessed that's where it was going, just because I was kind of like narrowing down the characters and possibilities of who it could have been. Like you knew
Hmm.
there was gonna be a reveal, and I was like, it's
Yeah.
probably his daughter. But
Yeah.
then I really liked how it worked as like how it fit in with Black Widow, and how Black Widow was, she was shook that she
Yeah.
killed that little girl. Like she was carrying that like her whole life, and then that her being alive still, it was kind of like, okay, I have a moment of redemption, and she ended up getting locked in like a cage. And I mean, the whole ending was like, I keep seeing that people keep saying it's like, yeah, the movie's good until the ending where it just becomes pure Marvel. And I can't really argue with that. The ending is like they're in like a flying city and then it crashes,
Yeah.
but I was pretty good with the end set piece. It's all whatever, but
Yeah.
she's locked in a cell, like she can't get out. The Taskmaster and Black Widow lets her out, and then kind of releases her from the spell. Like they
Knowing
fight
that she's probably
first, and
gonna
then
attack her.
yeah, so she attacks her, and then she kind of like spreads the thing that releases her from the spell. And there's like a moment of like, now you can be whoever you want, which is kind of like the whole big theme of the movie is
Yeah.
getting away from you know your demons and your tormentors and your abusers to
Yeah.
be your true self. So
Now the question is like what they're gonna do with that character, because Taskmaster's a huge villain in the comics, And so like I'm so curious what like um I mean they really have like a blank slate with that character now. They could do whatever they want. But they're just such a cool character. I really hope they do like I don't know. I hope she kind of just chooses to be a villain still, just because I like Taskmaster as a villain. But you know, I'm probably gonna be game for what I'm sure they're gonna find something cool to do with that character. But
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to be that guy, but part of me wonders if the Red Room is like actually dead. I mean, we saw what's his name, the big bad guy. What was his name? The actor, Winston,
Ray
Winstone,
Winstone,
Ray,
yeah,
Ray Winstone. I mean, we saw he was in like a helicopter, and we saw it like just explode.
yeah,
So, presumably he's dead. But like also, I've seen a lot of movies and like we didn't actually see like his dead body and they didn't really give us a moment of like
right,
he is actually dead. And so I can't help but wonder if like maybe he's not dead or maybe the Red Room keeps going on and I don't know, I could see them addressing this story again.
yeah. No, for sure. I can almost guarantee that character is gonna come back at some point. I think the actress that played her was Olga Korolenko, who is she's not a nobody. You know, she's been in some Bond movies and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I can see that actor, you know, coming back for more stories and stuff. Especially like the Hawkeye TV show. Like that seems like a
Totally.
really natural um, place for that character to exist in. So
Oh, and they directly linked these two as well, where like the end credit scene
yeah,
was um
man. So I get it's Marvel and this is just what they do. They always like tease into the next movie, but I was so like when I saw that the ending post credit scene start up and she's at like Black Widow's grave, I was so like for a moment I got really excited because it's like wow they're actually gonna end on just like a moment to like grieve that this character's gone and done. And I was like kind of really surprised and like thankful that they were gonna do that. Then they're like nope, and then like immediately it's like cut like they do that Marvel thing where they undercut the emotional moment with some moment of levity, what's her name blowing her nose and like not giving a shit that
Elaine.
yeah, yeah, Lane.
Julie Louis Dreyfus, yeah, is
Yeah.
there.
So that was really disappointing to me. Um, but you know, it's the post credit. I know they're gonna put in an advertisement for the next film pretty much every time, and that was kind
Well,
of
it's
a
going to be
tie-in
the
for
Hawkeye
yeah,
show.
yeah, the
What
Hawkeye
is
show.
that? So they're gonna. I mean, I thought it was interesting just because I assumed that this movie was going to end with Florence Pugh becoming the new Black Widow and like joining the Avengers,
Right.
and it didn't end that way. Instead, it just looks like she's going to hunt Clint. Arrow, Green Arrow,
Hawkeye.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Hawkeye. Sorry, wrong comic book series,
Yeah.
but he sounds like, and just guessing she'll end up connecting with him, and then they'll be teammates, and then that'll be how they bring him
Yeah.
in. But
Or she meets up with like his daughter. Is kind of where I'm thinking it's going.
oh, totally, totally. But yeah, so I think yeah, they set it up, but I was I I'm with you. I was actually thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, interesting. It's just a somber moment.
Yeah.
Nice. I could get into this. Oh, never mind. They're saying
Yeah, that would have been a really great like I that would have been such a really like it would just be such a cool way to end it just because she spent so much time, you know, over 10 years now in the MCU making these movies. And yeah, I just think it's an appropriate way to get rid of the character, you know, to finish that
say
movie.
goodbye
But
and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it would have been.
it's whatever.
You're not wrong. It would have been, and especially because like a lot of people complain about how she was short shifted in
Yeah.
Endgame. Where at the end of Endgame, there's a huge funeral for Tony Stark. Um,
Yeah.
but I also think like from a character level, it makes sense that there would be a huge funeral for Tony Stark, and
Right.
like Scarlet or Black Widow is buried underneath a small tree.
Hmm.
Just
It does make
one
sense.
one as a
Absolutely.
spy, one as a billionaire.
Yeah.
But
Um, yeah.
yeah.
Trying to think if there's any other big spoilers that I wanted to talk about, but I think that's probably about it. The movie didn't have a ton of connecting tissue to like other films that I mean, besides them just kind of bringing up like her family being really impressed with her for being in the Avengers and stuff constantly.
Right.
But
I mean,
like,
so like the movie didn't tie in any other like Avengers. Like
yeah,
they didn't bring in any like A-list Avengers or even Avengers. Like remember
yeah,
the first Ant-Man movie? There was like Falcon in there.
yeah,
Like they just let this movie be its own movie, and that was another thing that I really liked about it was that it just was its own thing.
yeah.
And I thought they just like they knew what it was and they just kind of went with it. I was
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I was really impressed with this movie.
Me too.
Um, the action was pretty good. Again, I'm not super into the action with Marvel right now, but I thought like it kept me entertained. And I wanted to ask you like I'm not asking you for your ranking
Mm.
necessarily, but like do you think it'll be in your top 10 or like
I
where do you think it'll end up on your ranking?
I think it will be in my top 10, especially upon rewatch, because just now that we're talking about it, it's like I'm liking a lot of the pieces of it a lot more than. Um, I mean, I really really liked it when I saw it. I think the first thing I said when I walked out was just like, "That was fucking awesome. That was so cool."
Yeah.
Like I just had a blast. Um, and while I generally like the Marvel movies, it's rare that I feel that awesome afterwards as I did with this movie. So I think it's going to be up there in the top 10. I don't think it's like quite on the level of like Winter Soldier and stuff, but um yeah,
Yeah.
I think I probably like it like pretty. It's going to be close to like Homecoming-ish area for me, which is in my top 10, I think.
Yeah.
So,
For sure. And for me, I did update my list. I change my MC rankings like all the time, but
yeah.
the rankings don't really mean anything. But it's
Right.
definitely upper quadrant. Um, definitely probably top 10. We'll see if that changes with a rewatch and like it might go down or something. But at this point, I actually put WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier in there too
Oh
because
yeah.
Letterboxd has those
Yeah.
available. I have WandaVision at number 5
Oh
because that's how
shit.
much I like. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I know that might go down as well, but like I was so thoroughly happy with
Yeah.
WandaVision. And then I have Black Widow like at 9,
Okay.
which is right in front of Iron Man
Yeah.
and Infinity War and Homecoming. So,
All right.
and that's just because like I thought the action and what they did with the characters was more interesting than Iron Man. And I'm a guy who likes later on stories. Like I'm not as into the first movie where like I think a lot of people give
Right.
Iron Man credit because it set the table for everything. I'm much more interested in like yeah, phase 4 when they're getting dirty with the characters,
Right. Yeah.
Um, and yes, that's why I have it yeah, in at number 9,
Yeah.
top 10.
I think that's fair. I also think, just from like a film, just from a film level, it feels like one of the more like Kate Shortland had a really good like this is just one of the better directed uh, MCU movies to me. Because they have a lot of hit and miss ones that are kind of like, if they gone with like a better director, this movie might have been like. I think she really nailed this movie, and yeah, for that it kind of holds it up a little bit even higher for me. So
Yeah, I agree. And it's like again, it's like interesting that she has like this past of making horror movies,
yeah,
and then they bring her in to like kind of cover like the broad strokes of a movie about similar themes.
yeah.
And it's like I wonder if that's like what's going to happen with
It
the Eternals
it seems
and
like most like as I'm thinking of like the directors they pull in, like Scott Derrickson, Tom Watts, like Kate Shortland, Sam Raimi's making the new, like these are all horror directors that moved into these action like family movies, and it's like there's a weird blend there that just works like for whatever
yeah,
reason. Maybe it's just like understanding the psychology of making a horror movie work, and like that just translates well into action and comedy and
it,
stuff, but
it
it
might be
seems
like the
like a
balancing of
consistent.
tones too, where like
Yeah.
with a horror movie you need to know how to like keep the tension there, but also like inject some humor
Mm-hmm.
and kind of switch the tone at will, and it might be part of it.
For sure.
So
But all right, well, that was our review for Black Widow, first film in the Phase 4 of the MCU, and we got uh, Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, The Eternals, and Spider-Man No Way Home are all still coming out this year. So
Oh my goodness! Wow. And then that's not even mentioning like Loki's finishing. And is there another
Loki.
show like is Hawkeye
Um,
airing this year too,
Hawkeye's I
or
think like it might be like early 2022, like January or something. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot of Marvel, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm in.
it's
I'm
good.
in. I'm in. I'm unabashedly in.
Yeah,
So
it's all good stuff. So next week, do you know what we're reviewing next week? Or if we
we
not,
actually don't know
we're
what we're gonna
undecided.
review next week. It's gonna be Brandon and Sean though. I think they might do the new Soderbergh movie, but
Okay.
it'll definitely be Brandon and Sean. So
All right. Well, you can check that movie out either way. It's good. It's on HBO Max. Um, I don't think it's in theaters, but it's
it's
probably gonna end up being a smaller movie that we do next week. But
yeah, unless we do Space Jam, but I don't know if anyone really wants to do Space Jam. So
yeah. All right. Well, sounds good. Thanks for talking with me, and you can follow us all on Letterbox, Monthly Movie Dispatch on YouTube, like and subscribe, and also on all podcast streaming platforms, I believe. So, we'll
yep.
see you guys next week. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
thanks.